it's Matt, and I am in Changi Airport in Singapore, where I'll be taking my next flight to London Heathrow. I'm flying with Singapore Airlines on the business class service, and this will be a flight on the A380 super jumbo jet, which I'm really excited about. 10 years ago, pretty much exactly, was when I took my first ever business class flight, which was also on Singapore Airlines and also on the A380. So I'm very curious to see what's changed in these 10 years. I'm in transit. I took a flight from Hong Kong earlier today. Didn't really have very much time, but I did manage to just go around the Silver Chris Lounge, which is really busy. I don't really have time to enjoy what they've got in the lounge, so I'm off to check in for my flight SQ322 to London Heathrow. When I got to my seat and started looking around, not the best first impression, because I quickly noticed all these dirty marks around. Even the mirror wasn't clean. So now I'm wiping up all around my seat, but it's really not something that any passenger should have to do, let alone in business class. Singapore Airlines, it is particularly disappointing in these pandemic times, and when you make a big point about how thoroughly you're meant to clean the cabins. And as a reminder, we are still, unfortunately, in these COVID times, and it is still mandatory to wear a face mask on board the flight, except when eating or drinking. Speaking of drinking, cheers. I am very thirsty. They do not serve a pre-takeoff drink, which I think is quite common on most airlines these days. After takeoff, of course, they will bring around whatever aperitif you choose, and I always go for the Singapore Sling, which is the signature on Singapore Airlines, and it's also one of my favorite cocktails. So the flight today is 13 and a half hours or so there'll be a full service on board. I had a little bit of dinner on the previous flight, but now I have supper to look forward to. I've used the book the cook service, which means that I have pre-selected my choice of meal, which you get a much wider choice than just the few choices that you would normally have in flight. So let's see what they come up with. The starter for supper was a sort of a smoked salmon niçoise type salad, which there's no choice for, everyone gets the same thing. But as I mentioned, I used the book the cook service to pre-order before checking in or while checking in for my flights, and I have selected a lobster thermidor for my supper, which is a very classic French dish, and you know, it sort of screams of luxury, and it's my first time where this service is available and this is an option to me, so I thought I would try it. Now, I am actually enjoying this lobster thermidor, mainly for the fact I am eating lobster thermidor in the air. If I am being picky, and let's face it, I'm vlogging, so I'm going to be a bit picky. I think it is a little bit overcooked and a little bit rubbery, and even like, you know, the vegetables just that little bit more overcooked. Still enjoyable, but having flown mainly Cathay Business Class the last few years, they've seemed to have really nailed it. You know, I get steaks that are pink, that I get vegetables which are still vibrant and fresh. So I'm a little bit surprised and a little bit disappointed that Singapore Airlines hasn't quite cracked how to retain all of those flavors, have things perfectly cooked in the air, because other airlines like Cathay have. Again, can't fault the service, and you know, obviously being able to select choice meals is really special. But hey, keep being picky, still enjoying it. it's time for bed, and the seat does fall down fully flat, and the lovely cabin crew, flight attendants did help me set it all up. There's a sort of cover over the seat, but unlike the old business class where the actual whole back of the seat comes over and the thing is actually a little bit like a mattress, this one really is just a seat, so it's actually not as plush. And having just flown on the 777-300ER from Hong Kong to Singapore, I would actually say that other seat is much more comfortable for sleeping. It's nice and sort of wide, and it really feels like a bed, whereas this is very much a seat that has gone down flat. So you know what, that's the standard these days, and it's, I'm sure it's comfortable enough to sleep. But in my previous experience of those, where the seat back comes up and you have like a mattress on it, I really slept to the point where I remember at one point in this previous flight, the flight attendant in the morning, I woke up, everybody else was having breakfast, and I was like, why didn't you wake me up? And they said, we tried, sir, but we just couldn't wake you up. So that's how good those beds were. So nothing to complain. This is a very good standard, and in fact the seat is still very wide. The one thing to say is that my legs do have to go to the side a little bit, and that's not a problem for me because I'm not very tall, and so I'm sure I'll have a pretty decent rest on this flight. I'm gonna do my usual thing, check out the in-flight entertainment system, watch a movie or so, and then try and get a little bit of sleep. I actually really enjoyed that breakfast, which is ironic, I guess, because I'm someone who doesn't normally even eat breakfast, and I chose the book the Coke option. So I chose the noodle soup, the ban mian, beforehand, which is just really flavorful, tasty, and actually kind of really what I felt like I wanted, really satisfying, crispy anchovies, chili sauce. I'd say I actually enjoyed that more than the lobster thermidor. Of course, lobster thermidor is just much harder to cook perfectly, even when you're cooking it direct, let alone traveling in air. So I guess fair enough. Seat-wise, being the A380, it is a pretty spacious seat. So there's loads of space, but I kind of feel like the space is used more for storage, but not really lending itself much to extra comforts. So, I've got all my hand carry luggage underneath the seat in front of me and stuff, which, isn't that useful in my books. We've got another hour and a bit before we land in London, and I'm just going to try and finish off this movie, and then I will see you in London.
I do hope you have enjoyed with us. On behalf of all my crew, I would like to thank you all for flying Singapore Airlines, and I do wish you a pleasant stay in London.
Alright, thank you so much. Bye! And I must say that I really enjoyed the flight today from Singapore to London in Singapore Airlines Business Class on the A380. Barring that one rather significant issue at the start with the cleanliness of my seat, which is, really something that should not happen. Singapore Airlines, you need to sort that out. But barring that rather significant blip, the rest of the flight was absolutely fantastic. In particular, the service from the cabin crew was just exceptional, which is exactly what I remembered from flying Singapore Airlines last all those years ago. I think it was the kind of service that you usually would expect in first class of airlines, not just one single crew member knew my name, multiple ones
did, and they were all really genuinely helpful and friendly. So thank you so much to the crew on board the service today. And also, in case you didn't know, I actually started my journey in Hong Kong. So I flew Hong Kong to Singapore, which is actually in the Boeing 777-300ER. So check out that other video and have a look at the differences between the two business classes on these two planes. I hope that you guys have enjoyed coming along on this flight with me today. Do me a favor, click the like button underneath this video and let me know what you think, especially if you have flown Singapore Airlines before. Let me know what your experience was like as well. While you're at it, do check out some of my other videos where I go on unusual adventures all around the world, and consider subscribing to follow me on those adventures. Until next time, I will see you guys in the next video.